Well, folks, I've been going back and forth between hiring somebody to do some work on the bus for me, namely suspension work. It needs an airbag replaced. Anyway, I've been going back and forth between getting somebody to do the work for me or doing it myself. And I put it up on jack stands yesterday and then decided I was going to get somebody else to do it because it looked really sketchy. I just built two of these platforms for jacking up the bus. And I've got to say, it's the first time I've nailed anything together in years, anything substantial anyway, and it was quite satisfying. A lot of nails in here, probably a lot more than necessary, but yeah, very satisfying. It was actually a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm going to be doing some work on the rear end of the bus. I tried jacking it up the other day and it was quite sketchy just using the jack stands and some boards. So I decided to make these platforms, and still going to be sketchy, but not as bad. This is the jack that I used for lifting my bus, and the reason why it is sketchy isn't because of the lift capacity. It has to do with the scissoring action when it actually lifts. Keep an eye on where this is. This is the center of this is basically just behind where the wheels are. Now, as you can see with the jack lifted up all of the way, the lift platform is actually several inches back further from where it started. What that means is that this jack depends on rolling on the floor while you're doing your lifting. So if I had my bus on a concrete floor and I put this underneath and I jacked, as I'm jacking the bus up, this jack would actually roll forward about 6 or 8 inches so that this stayed underneath the bus. However, when you're doing it on uneven surfaces or out there like I am in the dirt, the jack sinks into the dirt and it doesn't roll anywhere. So what happened is it would basically pull the bus over one way about 6 or 8 inches as I was jacking it up. And that would cause the jack stand that was supporting the other side of the bus to actually tip over at a really scary angle. This is a pneumatic jack that I purchased with my own money from Beaver after using this and being completely sketched out. These operate much more like a bottle jack or a hydraulic ram in that they just go straight up and down. Later in the video, I'll demonstrate actually lifting the bus, but I just want to show you guys how this operates, so stand by. As you guys can see, this lifts straight up and down, which is one of the benefits of this style of jack. Another benefit is that once you actually have it in place, the wheels are no longer on the ground, so it's not the wheels that are supporting the load, so they're not actually going to sink in. This actually worked shockingly well under my bus. Again, I will show you guys later, but if you're interested in one of these, there will be a link in the description below. If you're using this on a car or something like that that's lighter, you can get lighter weight ones. This one has the capacity to lift my bus, but you can get more sensible versions than this. Made these things here, and I've got the jack stands up against the frame rails. I've got one on each side. I've got these as backups. I'll probably just remove them, but checking to see how much these are going to settle. I think they'll be pretty good. Got the wheels off the ground, probably about, I don't know, 7 inches, 8 inches, something like that. All right, folks, this is the quote unquote actual good airbag, or the airbag that hasn't popped yet. And hopefully you guys can see it's in pretty rough shape. There's a lot of cracking back here. It's actually worse than it shows up on camera. And the other one failed down around this area. You can see this one has a lot of cracking as well. So these bags were due for changing. And yeah, it's the first vehicle I've ever owned that had airbags. I have no idea how this will come off. I assume I got to take this off here. There's one bolt on the bottom. Yeah, but anyway, I'll get it figured out. First, I'm gonna go and I think take the wheel off the other side. I think I'll probably get my air hose, blow some schmoo off here, and then spray some, what do you call it? Penetrating oil. I also got to deal with this rust at some point because that is the inside of the bus. It's not supposed to be like that. Now would probably be a good time to patch that because it's pretty easy to gain access to both sides. All right, folks, this is the airbag that failed, and it's pretty obvious where it failed from. It's the first airbag I've ever dealt with, and I gotta say, I'm shocked at how thin the material is, but yeah, interesting, very interesting. Good news is that both of the airbags have part numbers on the bags, and they're Goodyear, so it should be fairly easy for me to match them up. I figured out that the most efficient way to actually get these off is to simply cut the bag off around the top and then grind the head of the bolt that goes up through, or a stud that goes up through. And when I put these back together, you better believe I'm going to have these completely slathered in never sees or anti-sees. It is now dark time because it's Alberta and it's after 4 p.m. Anyway, I ended up getting the lower section of this airbag off, but I wasn't able to do so without removing the shocks. The shocks were limiting how far the axle would go down. Seems weird that they wouldn't have something else limiting it. That seems like it would be very hard on the shock, but maybe the shock's designed to do that. Anyway, I had to remove the shocks and drop the axle because the exhaust is in the way of this bag, so I couldn't get the lower section of the bag out. Still have the upper piece in there, and there's a little rubber bumper, not little, a substantial rubber bumper. What I did with the other side is I cut into the plate with a grinder, and it got the plate hot enough that the rubber separated a little bit, and I was able to peel away some rubber around the fastener that holds it up. So I think I might do the same thing here. I just cut this chunk of rubber off of there, and now I have access to this. Oh, gloves in the way. Now I have access to this, and so once I cut that, I can drop this piece. I ended up removing a bunch more rubber to get the grinding disc in there, but it looks like it's just about ready to come off. So just gotta get some sort of prying device in here. This is stuck pretty good. All right. Okay, we got a little bit of movement. This was a lot easier to do on the other side when I had two hands, but I'm currently filming. All right, I'm gonna come back in a second. Oh boy. Okay, let's see, is this gonna work? Nope, apparently. Okay, I was just about to give up, turn off the camera, and it popped out. That is a lot of rust. Okay, so now this is the piece that popped off. That's the top of the air spring. I've got part numbers on these. I just need to find some. I'm also going to replace the shocks while I'm in here. They don't seem great, and I don't want to have to crawl back under here anytime soon. Where's your mouse? Hey, did you get a mouse? You get it. You get the mouse. You gonna show Orangey? You show Orangey? Ready? Oh. Oh, it's getting away. I've been looking at the entire air system on this bus. The tank is over there in the background, and I've decided that I'm probably at some point going to upgrade these compressors. It has dual compressors. But what I'm going to do for now is replace at least all of the lines and do some maintenance. You can see these lines are cracked here, and going into the compressors themselves. I think these are filters. Either way, I need to replace some stuff here. It's pretty nasty. So I'm going to get in. It's pretty hard to film stuff, but I'm going to get in under there and rip all of the air lines, all of the air fittings out. And I'm probably also going to rip the air tank out because there's a lot of room here. I don't know how well you guys can see, but there's actually a huge amount of room in this cavity and nothing in here. And the tank is over there against a frame rail. The tank is here and the pump or the compressors are over there, just on the other side of this catalytic converter or whatever that is, DPF filter. It makes a whole lot more sense as far as the routing of the lines goes, and it makes sense to be closer to the compressor. I've now got this tank removed, and hopefully now that it's out, you guys can see that it is in fact very rusty back here. Yeah, giant chunks of rust flaking off. This tank's probably got a few more years of use in it, but I'm doing a bunch of maintenance on the bus now. It was a bit of a pain to get off. The two bolts at the front, pretty easy because they stick out. The ones at the back, not so easy because I had to come in from the side. There was a hose coming across here, and it was pretty miserable. But it's out now, and I will have my new tank, I believe, tomorrow. All right, time for a little bit of an update. I just installed the, what do you call it? Auxiliary fill. I installed a fill system, or a fill port, so that if the compressors stop working for some reason, or when they stop working, you can still put air in the tank with a separate air compressor. So I'm going to show you guys where I put that port. It is now mounted right here, right there. And the line is a very short line because the tank is now right there. I've got a drain valve on the bottom of it as well. That other line is the fill from the compressor. And then on the other side, I've got a plug and a pressure relief valve. And I'm going to show you now where the other fill thing used to be. So the tank and the fill thing used to be on this side of the bus. That's actually where it used to be. It's a little bit more out of the way, but I would have had to run a line all the way across. The routing of the lines was a little bit unnecessarily long and convoluted, and so I like it a lot better the way it is now. So I wasn't able to find shocks, but I decided to install the old shocks and put the new airbags in. I also decided that instead of running the air lines the way they were, I'm just going to use these fittings and run the air lines on the outside of the frame rails. Tell me why that's a bad idea. Anyway, these used to be 90-degree fittings. I just got these caps on here to stop crud from getting in there until I get the air lines in. But yeah, there's actually quite a bit of room. There's not anything really for the airlines to interfere with. They had them going in through these holes here and then looping around. I think it makes way more sense just to go along each side of the frame rail. There's lots of room. I can go up there and then cross over where I crossed over for the air tank. This stuff that I have on the frame is fluid film. I painted a little bit on with a brush. I am going to be spraying the whole undercarriage of the bus at some point. I bought a kit to do that, but that's a different story. I think last night I showed you guys the install of the battery charger. Today I'm working on installing air lines new air lines on the whole bus, starting with the rear. I've already installed the one from the tank. This is from the driver's side or left rear airbag, and I'm currently running the one for the passenger side or right rear airbag. So I'll show you guys what I've got going on. Okay, let's take a look over here first. I've removed a bunch of the rusty old clamps that I had in here and replaced them with stainless steel ones. There's a line going into the bag. I was worried about this angle or this arc. Before they had a 90-degree fitting on it, and they actually had it going back through into the frame. And then, yeah, it was quite the mess. So I have it just arcing forward through here, going through a couple of big straps that I already had in place to hold this other stuff up. And once I get under here, I've actually gone to these, and we've got the lines from the other side joining in. This is kind of messy. I haven't pulled them tight yet because I'm currently working on the other side. So I'm gonna go plug in the other side and then work my way back to the valve body from the rear airbag. This might be really obvious to anyone who works with this stuff, but before you start pulling it, it's a good idea to wrap some tape around the end of your line so it doesn't get messed up. That way, when you put it in your fitting, it's not going to leak really bad, or hopefully it doesn't anyway. So I'm just gonna pull this tape off. Now that I've got the tape pulled off, I'm gonna pull this little booty off that I use to keep debris out. I'm gonna use the natural angle of this line from it being all curled up in the package and just shove it in there. And we're locked in. And now I'm going to work my way back from here and install straps. And yeah, as you can see, I've already got a couple there. I completely forgot to show you guys that I relocated some stuff over here. I don't know if you remember or if I have a clip of it, but I used to have it so that I had two fills. There was actually, so the line from the tank went in here, but then there was a secondary line from the tank. For some reason, they had a pilot line. What that meant is that I could actually tee off in two places. So I have the pressure switch and then the pressure sensor. So the pressure sensor feeds the gauge on the dash so I can see how much pressure is in the tank. And the pressure switch turns the compressors on and off. And I used to have the pressure sensor on this side, and now I just have that hole plugged. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug it, I'm gonna turn the vehicle on. I'm not gonna turn it on. I'm gonna turn the key on, get the air compressors going, and check to see that it's actually building pressure on the gauge. And then I'm going to use the controller to basically see which port is which. I want to make sure that when I push the buttons on my controller, I'm actually filling the bag that I think I'm filling. I replaced almost all of the fittings, and I didn't replace this one. And surprise, surprise, it's leaking. Fortunately, I do have one. I just didn't replace it, so I'll replace that now. So I went to replace the fitting, which was up in that area, and managed to break one of the fittings because the line was messed up pretty bad, and I just tried to force it in. And then I noticed that this line was spliced, so it's actually got a joiner in it, which I'm not too pleased about, one of these things. So I'm going to try to replace the whole line, but where it connects to the compressor was in a pretty hard to reach place, and it doesn't use one of those push to connect fittings. So I'm gonna have to remove this. Hopefully this is a reusable fitting, but I'm guessing it might not be. Well, folks, I just got done doing some swearing because after installing the new lines on the back of the compressors and struggling with getting them to thread in, Immediately, as soon as I installed the compressor, I kinked one of the lines because realistically it should have a 90-degree fitting, and that's very likely why they have repair pieces on both of the lines, or used to have repair pieces on both of the lines. Anyway, I'm not sure if you can hear this, but there's a bit of an air leaking sound, and that is the real reason why I'm very frustrated. I currently have 137 PSI in the tank. It shut off at 145, but is down to 137 because it's leaking. And what is actually leaking after all of the refitting and taping and stuff that I did, it's actually one of the valves in the valve body. So this valve is leaking. So I'm gonna have to pull this apart and hope that there's just a piece of this white tape or something jammed in the valve. So not only do I need to pull the pumps back off and repair that line, now once I do that, I also need to take care of this situation. This is one of the AMK compressors off my bus, and this is where the fitting goes in on the back. And looking at it yesterday, I saw that there was a metal ring around there and thought for sure that this was all metal inside of there, and it just had a plastic body around the outside. Turns out that's actually plastic inside there, and as a result, it is now stripped. So I am going to do my best to thread this out to 1/4 inch NPT and then put a 90-degree fitting in, like I believe should have been in there in the first place. We're gonna pop one of those in there. It might not work because it's pretty thin around this area. It actually steps down there quite a bit. So this might just poke right through, or it might split when I go to thread the piece in, but no losing at this point. I either have to order one of these pieces. I have to find the piece first, try to order it, hope that it's not ridiculously expensive. So probably what will happen, if I can't fix this, I'll probably just order a whole new set of pumps. I've waited about 15 minutes. I've got the line connected, and that's connected to the bike pump. Let's see if we're gonna get a leak. There's 80 PSI. Nothing yet. All right, I'm gonna need 2 hands to get 100. Okay, a little over 120 PSI, and we are sealed up. So that is great news. I'm gonna go put this back on. If the other one ever fails, I'll do the same thing. Okay, we're gonna find out if I'm actually able to do any service on this. So what was trapping this in place was a bunch of O-rings that you could actually see sticking out. A bunch of those got wrecked. Not sure what we're gonna find behind here, but I don't think those O-rings matter too much. I think they were just to stop rattling, and yeah. Based on what I see here, it doesn't look like those O-rings matter. Okay, this is probably the part that matters. I used a 14mm wrench and loosened this off, and I'm guessing there's probably some sort of spring and O-ring and valve in here. I definitely do not want to lose any pieces from in there. Aha, what is this? That could definitely cause a leak. It's a little burr from when it was assembled, it looks like. We've got the tank filling up, and that horrible oscillating, vibrating noise is gone. I straightened out one of the pins that hangs the compressor, and I believe that was the issue. Anyway, I'm gonna let this build pressure, and then yeah, we'll see if we're losing at the same rate as we were before. But I'm hoping, yeah, maybe the other compressor is leaking around that area as well. I got 4 new tires for the back of the bus. They're actually the same tires that are on the back of my truck. Well, almost the same. The ones on my truck are 245s and these are 225s, but the same Kumho tires. I used my Weaver torque wrench to torque the wheels on to 140 foot-pounds. If you guys have a different number than that I should be torquing them to, let me know. That torque wrench has come in really handy and is an excellent value. If you guys are interested, link in the description below to one of those. Let's go take a look at the tires. I did use probably an excessive amount of never sees or anti-sees on these nuts and flanges just to make sure that they come off easily, but these are the tires that I got. Kumho's. I don't even know what they're called. I can't see that, but what does that say? CRUGN HD5s. Anyway, just a basic tire. They held up pretty good on my truck. I actually got a new set for the back of the truck as well while I was at it because I didn't rotate them, and I run pretty high pressure in the back of the truck, and the rears were wore out. The fronts were still okay. So yeah, I got 2 new ones for the back of the truck at the same time. So I now have the wheels torqued on both sides, and technically I could lower the bus down now, put it on the ground. I got the bags in place and the lines hooked up. Not sure how much of that I showed, but I do have the new airbags in there. But I think before I do that, I want to get under the bus while it's still up on jack stands and chip away at some rust. I do also want to replace the front air lines, but honestly, the closer it comes to doing that and the more nasty weather we get, I'm thinking that I might wait to do that. But the airbags on the front are probably about to explode because one of the airbags on the back exploded from rot. So yeah, not really sure what I'm gonna do. Have you guys ever used one of these things? It's called a needle scaler. I just got done using one under the bus to remove some rust. Can you tell? I realized after that it didn't show up very well on camera when I was out in the bus. This will give you a little better idea of what actually happened. Wow, that's bad. I'm trying to get a shot of me using my new pneumatic jack from Weaver. First time I put this bus up on stands, it took me, well, I didn't successfully get it up on stands. I gave up. It took me about an hour. Then when I finally got it up successfully, it took about 2 hours. I've already lowered the other side. It literally took maybe 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. But anyway, I decided I would try to film this side to show you guys how well this thing works, but it's going to be tricky because I can't get a tripod down there. Okay, this should work as long as I don't bump anything. You guys won't have a great shot of the jack, but basically I'm jacking underneath the axle. I'm going to take the weight off the jack stand and then put the wood blocking underneath the tires. I think we're already up. I'll give myself a bit of clearance. It's shocking how easy it is.
underneath the tires, lower it down, then I can just drive off it. It's crazy how easy this was. Okay, maybe that was less than 3 minutes. That was no time at all.
A few other things that I like about this jack. Once it is aired down all the way, you can see the profile is quite low. It's not quite as low as this 3-ton jack. They have this handle on it, which basically pulls back and you can lock in the upright position. You can see that's locked in the upright. And then you can actually move it down and hook it in, and this is for transporting. So if I was going to put it underneath my, say, 2500 GM, I could do it in this position, and it rolls right under quite easily, as you guys can see. But if I was putting it under something like my bus, this is actually a second position that you can put it in. And this way, because of the angle change, it's much easier to slide in underneath. And if you're walking any distance with it, it's also nice to have, because of this angle, it's not going to be dragging on stuff. All of the weight is directly on the wheels. Actually, quite a handy tool. I'm very glad I finally got one of these. That just about does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. In one of my previous clips, I ended fairly abruptly saying that I hope that the bus holds air pressure, and it in fact did not. It takes overnight to kind of bleed down, so I'm not too worried about it, especially considering that the temperatures have dropped back down to -15, -16 degrees Celsius, so I'm not crawling underneath the bus to deal with that right now. I might end up with new pumps, but they're fairly expensive, so that is probably going to happen when they completely fail and not when I have a little leak. I still have to deal with the air lines on the front, but again, don't want to crawl underneath the bus in this weather. You guys may have noticed when I'm laying underneath the bus, you can see the air tank beside me, and you can see a drive shaft loop, but there's no drive shaft. Well, that's because I took the drive shaft out and had it rebuilt. I have put it back in. I didn't film any of that. I was quite busy, and I guess that's my excuse. So the bus mechanically is basically ready to go. I've got to throw on some zip ties and stuff like that. I've been working very hard on this bus day and night and was highly motivated and very excited because I was planning a 2-week vacation in British Columbia with a few people who I care very much about. Unfortunately, that plan has changed, and now, not that I want to call Andy my second choice, but Andy and I are planning a camping trip / firewood collection trip. If it does work out, I'll do my best to actually film a video for you guys that should be fairly interesting. If you guys have questions, let me know in the comment section. If you want to see a video about a specific thing, let me know that and maybe I can make it happen. I have been sick for a couple of days. You might notice this cold sore on my face. Beautiful thing. That's also why I didn't post any videos through the week this week. But anyway, I'm starting to feel better. I have spent a bunch of time trying to figure out where I'm going to install my diesel heaters, so that will be in an upcoming video. The process of trying to figure out where to install them turned into a whole other project, so maybe you'll see some of that as well. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Just chilling out, biking down the path here. Stopped and looked at some kayakers go by, and hey fellas. Can you get off the path there? I kind of need to get through.